Yeah, I'm surprised though. So you finally married your body pillow? What was the
Yeah,
ceremony
yeah.
like? Oh,
it's a
hey
long
guys, here
story.
we are live with Level with Me podcast. I'm LevelCap. This is Matimi0. We're both veteran content creators, as you can see. Matt on Twitch, myself on YouTube. And today we're going to regale you with stories, drama, behind the scenes stuff, and just weird stuff we want to talk about, I think.
Yeah, I knew you said you were gonna have like a joke intro. I didn't know you were gonna actually go through with something like that. But yeah, hello.
Joke? Oh, yeah. The joke
Yeah, the
intro.
joke. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, I think most people watching us now probably know who we are because this is our first episode, and we're just gonna like tell our subscribers to go watch it. But
Right.
for those out there who don't know who we are or how we met, do you actually remember how we met each other? Because it's been, I think, 11 plus years at this point.
How well are we talking about in real life? Or are we talking about just because you approached me for Squad Up way back in the day, like Battlefield 3 days, and you just messaged me out of the blue, and you're like, "Hey, I'm getting a crew together. Would you like to join?" If that's what you meant.
Yeah, well, I was actually looking back on it and I was thinking I don't actually remember all the details of it, but I think we had the same representative at Machinima. Do you remember?
I whenever it was actually a part of Machinima, so no, your
Okay.
old age memory is
In that
eluding
case,
you.
I have no idea how we first met, Matt.
Yeah, so so I believe you emailed me, or it was probably an email. It's literally been like 11 years,
There
and
was a guy. There was a guy that represented both of us or knew both of us, and it
okay,
was through some service. And I actually don't remember what it might have been some like weird proto era of YouTube. And some guy was like trying to get us deals or something. And he was like, hey, you should work with this guy, Matimi0. He also does stuff like that. And so he gave me your email. Then
mm-hmm.
I emailed you, and then we just started recording. But I think the first video we did, at least looking back through my YouTube history together,
Yeah.
was us in the Battlefield 3 attack helicopter. But there was also like a squad on the ground communicating with us. So there's a
Oh,
couple other players, I think.
I honestly don't remember that. Maybe my old age is kicking in
We gotta
too.
get the story straight, Matt.
We
'Cause,
really
like,
do. We should have probably planned this before the stream. This is
now,
ridiculous.
I figured it'd be fun for people to see us try and get our old brains working to remember how we actually met each other.
But that was with who was the original squad? It was Mongol, you, me, and Sergeant Enigma, right?
I think so. So for people listening now and who are like, what is Squad Up? Because it is kind of history. It was like back in the early days of YouTube when you could just like throw gameplay videos out there and they'd like do really well. We had a 4-man squad going for Battlefield, and we'd record or post like every Friday or something like that. And they were generally pretty well liked and
Yeah, no, it
well
was.
received.
I still have people to this day saying I met you and I love the crew back in the day because eventually it became the core crew, which was me, you, Jack, and X Factor.
Yeah, when we could get them together. And,
Yeah.
God, the punctuality of YouTubers, man, it is like
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, how come that all fell apart? And I'm like, well, let me tell you about scheduling and YouTubers. It
It's
doesn't
hard when
always work
everyone
out
was
so well.
literally all over the world, though. So
Yeah.
that made it a
The
little
thing
tough.
that always blew my mind was that the recording time was at the same time every week. And yet, after
And
doing
yet-
it for years,
And yet 30 minutes would go by and be like, oh, okay.
we'd
now
have to
we're
like
starting.
message people and they're like, oh my God, I forgot that was today. I'm like, do you people not have any type of alarm system? Like,
Well,
anything at all?
I don't. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry for being late all the time, okay? I didn't know you were going to confront me at the beginning of the stream.
Oh, yeah, you. Yeah, no, you're surprisingly punctual, Matt.
I try to be.
Yeah, I say surprisingly because it is an uncommon quality to have in the content creation world.
Just don't tell my viewers on Twitch.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to our history, we recorded Squad Up quite a while. We did double vision for a while,
Yes.
which was usually us in an attack helicopter or doing something else sometimes.
Dirt bike C4 on that one map I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, Silk Road. Kind of a legendary session. I remember it too. I think we killed a helicopter.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It flew too low.
Yeah. So we had some legendary videos there, and then as the YouTube scene evolved and whatnot, you started getting into streaming more.
Yep.
And I stuck with YouTube, and then the Battlefield scene kind of shifted. I feel like around the Hardline era is when that shift began to take place.
Yeah, and then Battlefield 1 came out, and it was fun, but it just didn't grab, I think, a lot of the Squad Up crew as much as the other past ones.
Divided the Battlefield audience, I feel.
Yeah.
Because you had the, like, BF3, BF4, Hardline. At least it was all modern military weapon stuff, you know? Even if Hardline was cops and criminals, it was still kind of similar vein, you know? And then BF1 was like, you guys like history, right? And they had already, over like, 6-7 years, built a pretty core Battlefield audience around modern military stuff. And so there was like a big division there. And then I remember Brandon didn't like the weapon mechanics in BF1.
Yeah, that was my big issue.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of weapon bullet spread and all that stuff, and it was fine. Like, the game is great. Atmospherically, the maps were fantastic, but like the weapons themselves just didn't handle as well as I would have liked, and I just kind of bounced off it. So
yeah, that's kind of when I feel like the Squad Up and all the collaborative Battlefield stuff sort of started winding down, was during the BF1 days, and then BF5 was like, let's solidify that.
Yeah. We did a couple, but it was, that was pretty much the end of it. So
yeah, it was tough. EA kind of lost their touch there and sort of made things hard for us, and then you kind of went full-time stream.
Well, I did, yes, and also Rainbow Six Siege exists, and I did that I was like maining that for years, and I'll still love that game. I don't play it as much as anymore, but yeah, Rainbow Six Siege completely took over my life, and I transitioned for more Battlefield 2, that title instead.
Yeah, and that game had a solid run for quite a while. I mean, it's still going.
It's still going, yeah. They have a new season coming out. They're bringing in a new operator who opens up every ceiling on the map, basically. So that should be fun.
I mean, they've run out of ideas for the operators. Like, everyone is like, here's a slight variation on the thing that already exists. And you're sort of like,
well, there's only so many ways you can get into a building and so many ways you can open up stuff. And so now you have a robot that you'll be able to tear open the floor. It's a Roomba, but with giant chainsaws. So that's fun.
Nice. How many robots are in that game? You could basically just have a robot-based team at this point. You could just have robot wars.
Kind of. But there are a bunch of robot-based. Like, there's like Echo, but he's been in the game forever. The new character. There's a fair amount. Yeah.
Yeah. I always liked that game, but then I took a break from it and decided to come back, and that game is not friendly to getting back into it.
Not at all. And the one-shot headshot mechanic is really
the
headshot mechanic is really punishing for newer players or people who just don't expect headshots, everything to down you. So
it's still every single gun in the game is a one-shot.
Yeah, they haven't changed anything.
It's so hard to balance that because it just adds so much power to the like rapid rate of fire weapons.
They increased the recoil on a bunch of those, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. So DMRs kind of fall off because, well, it's like, why use something that hits hard when you can just one round going through someone's dome is the end of them.
Yeah. I think they kind of mathematically pigeonholed themselves into a difficult place to balance stuff, but it is
still fun though.
Cool. Oh yeah, and I can respect it too. Even if like something like a 9mm wouldn't penetrate like a certain helmet, you know.
They have Tachanka with his giant metal helmet, and he's just yeah exactly.
Yeah, you're like, 9mm would bounce off of that, but you know they got to keep it fun. They got to keep it fun and stuff. Yeah, man. So it's been quite a ride. I think we're both 12+ year veterans at this point.
Don't say that.
I know.
I started at the end of senior year. I think it was right after. And then I had an internship, and I was like posting videos and checking online while
You were
at
working
the
at a
job.
bank, weren't you, or something?
No, I worked at a sports. God, what was it exactly? I basically was the guy who went around and made sure that coaches were following the rules of the NCAA, which was exciting. I was basically the snitch, and I had to ensure that they were following the rules and regulations set forth by the NCAA.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's right. When we started collabing, you were still working a normal person job.
Yes.
And I think I was full time, but only because I was like, let's see if YouTube works type experiment full time. So I was doing it full time, but not like not financially successful at that point. I think we were still both pretty
It took a couple of
green.
years for me to actually make it into something I could do long term, full time.
Yeah.
Like years. The first couple videos, not a lot, and then Battlefield 3 took off, and that helped out a lot. And then Battlefield 4 was like, okay, this finally can be something financially stable.
Wait,
Well,
what
as
were you
stable
doing
as you
prior
can.
to BF3?
Bad Company 2 videos?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow. I was watching some Bad Company 2 and I never saw you. So
I was tiny. I mean, only a couple
Yeah.
hundred video or a couple hundred views. Maybe it would eke out a few thousand, but
Yeah.
it was early stages. I mean, that's how it works for everybody. No one,
Sure.
very few people just take off out of nowhere with nothing behind them. So
yeah. I got really lucky. I didn't have to grind for months and months before I got an audience, but the timing was just super lucky because I started right as BF3 launched, and
you had a
people were like,
plan. You kind of knew what you were
I
going
definitely
for.
had a plan. That's why I went full tilt for it, because I was like, well, if I can just capture the BF3 audience, and like, there was no Bad Company 2 scene at the time, so
Well, there was really no Battlefield scene at all, really.
yeah, I mean there
if you think
was,
about
but it was kind of akin to the size of Bad Company 2, which was at the tail end of its lifespan and was nowhere near the size of Call of Duty or something like that. So
Right. Well, that's the thing is Call of Duty
Yeah.
was the king, and that's where every content creator was focusing on. And then there
Yeah.
were some other games that were popular, but for the most part, it was all COD. And then, so having this niche of Battlefield, and you filled it. So
yeah, well, I honestly just looked at what the COD guys were doing for the most part, and I noticed that nobody in Bad Company 2 was doing the same thing, because I was like, I would love somebody to break down like the good weapons and like tactics and stuff like that, and like nobody was doing it. They were just having like long format, like kind of rant fest of that stuff, and I was like,
Yep.
okay, I don't know if this is what I want to watch, so I just started delivering that content, and luckily it worked out.
yeah, because you were pretty much. I remember having conversations with other Battlefield YouTubers at the time, and everyone looked up to you as the one who made it and made it work. So you're kind of I don't want to say the grandfather of the Battlefield YouTube scene, but you were one of the first people to really get it going.
It's fair. It's funny how much that's carried over that initial perception of what my channel and what my content is like, even now when I'm playing BattleBit, people will be like, LevelCap, I would love your BF3 videos, you know? I'm like, oh, I'm so old.
It's 10 years ago, old man.
I'm so old. Like, oh, your video on that thing from like 10 years ago. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that M16A3 video changed my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That meme got out of control for sure.
I mean, it's you kind of did it upon yourself, but it's the part of it, right?
So I was thinking for the podcast, which is kind of in the proto phase, everybody's watching us figure it out as we go.
There's probably going to be some growing pains here and there.
Yeah. But I thought it would be fun to like not just talk about our old geezer gaming stories, but also bring in the modern current event stuff going on. There's been a lot actually in the last couple of weeks that has been pretty interesting, just in like both the content creator world side of things and also the game publishing development side of things. I'm still kind of following Battlefield stuff. I know you still play Battlefield at least once a week,
Yeah,
right?
occasionally.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the whole Redux announcement that they did a weekish ago.
So, I mean, it's kind of what I was expecting. Redux, I think, from what I remember, because I only saw the trailer, is essentially taking all of the old seasonal content and then just kind of squishing it all together in a couple of months until we get the final season. I'm assuming the final season, which is season 6.
Yeah.
And just getting you to be able to replay those game modes, which is cool. It's nice that the old content that they worked on is coming back. I do get frustrated when games like Rainbow Six Siege make all this effort for a limited time event and then you never get to play it ever again, even if you really enjoyed it. And so I like it, but it does seem like this is sort of the winding down of Battlefield 2042. I'm happy that they supported it longer than just a year because I still enjoy playing it from time to time. It does seem, though, that Season 6 will probably be the last, if not second to last, if they ever give us one last hurrah.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is every last season has always felt like the last, and the player base has thought it's the last, and then DICE is like, surprise, there's another season, and I'm like,
yeah.
This doesn't feel like good marketing, right? Because if every season people are getting ready to
this is
nail
it.
the coffin shut for the game, you're not attracting new players who are I want to invest time and effort into this game that's about to be dead. It's not a great perception to give out there. So I think I've been ranting at DICE this whole time. I'm if you knew you were going to do 2 more seasons, you should have just dropped it. But I think they don't actually know. I think they're getting the approval each season.
Yep.
They're well, we got
do we
this
have
many
the funding?
players.
Can we do this? Yes. I think they're
Which
kind of fine.
Which is probably
by the
why they have to delay it by 6 weeks for this season, because whenever they got approval or whatever, they're okay, how quickly can we throw together a map and content, and you're just I mean, I don't actually know the behind the scenes, but if I had to make a story of what was going on, that seems to make sense. But yeah, I think the game in itself is actually in a pretty good state overall in terms of actual gameplay. But to hit on what you were saying about spending time on limited time modes, it seems weird because BattleBit's front end does a great job of getting players into its modes. Whereas you're just I want to play a giant mode, I want to play a medium mode, or I want to play a small mode. And then it just has you join and you don't exactly know what game mode you're going to be jumping into. It's kind of based on what the players vote on, right?
Right.
And I'm oh, that would be cool for Battlefield to do that. Then they don't have to retire the limited time modes. They can just become permanent additions that players can either vote on.
They literally have this magical thing called Portal that they made a lot of effort on, and then it just sort of died. It didn't die because I know Portal still is somewhat popular in the community, but the Portal could have been a great place, and maybe it is. I haven't really dived too much into it, but
it's not. It's kind of dead, to be honest.
Just have that be where the limited time events are. Allow people to create limited time events and playlists or whatever. That would, for me, that would been the best place to keep those game modes going.
Yeah, it's hard to know if so there was a huge they did Portal because there was always a giant outcry to support the modding scene, and some great mods came out of the Battlefield 1942 and the Battlefield 2 era. You had Desert Strike for 1942 or Desert Combat for 1942, and then BF2 had the Project Reality, which later became Squad, so all these cool things came out of modding for Battlefield, and then it just became too hard with the Frostbite engine, so they tried to remedy it with Portal. But it almost seems like the modding world now is just not quite as popular as it used to be, maybe because the gaming world is so saturated that there's usually a full-fledged standalone game out there for whatever kind of crazy mod you want to play,
Yeah, I've never really been into modding, so I've never really followed it as closely as others. It could be because games are just a lot bigger now and complex, and a lot of games just don't allow for mod support. But I do think modding in general for certain titles like Bethesda games is huge, and if there is a robust platform or tools available for modders, you will get a good modding scene. For the most part, I just don't think Battlefield ever has. I mean, they haven't had mod tools since Battlefield 2?
Do you know how the Halo modding scene is going? Because it's got probably some of the most robust in-game modding tools that I've seen in any sort of AAA
We're talking
platform.
about Forge, right?
Yeah. I haven't actually checked it out lately, but I mean, I know that the Halo player base for the free-to-play multiplayer experience has not been particularly popular, like just in general.
Well, I think that's just Halo Infinite in itself. But there's been a lot of talk lately. I just literally saw a post online where people were praising the Forge for bringing back players and getting them involved. I think the Forge community has remade a bunch of like old maps, and they have like a playlist for it from previous Halo games. I watched Jack Frags, our friend. He made a video showing off like just the insane. They had like a Rainbow Road, like Mario Kart style map. They had like a Honey I Shrunk the Kids map that looked fantastic. So no, the Forge community is pretty incredible. They know their stuff, and I even downloaded Halo Infinite to maybe try it out myself at one point. So
okay, yeah, I'm actually looking at the Steam charts now, and they had whatever their last update in June was. It seems like they got a pretty good surge, and now they're like hitting 6-7K concurrent.
They're sort of
on
pooting
Steam.
along. I also checked as well. They're not doing great, but especially for a mega AAA title. But you could say the same for things like Battlefield. So
well, and also they're a bigger franchise on consoles too, so maybe the Steam numbers are less of a percentage than they are with other games. Right?
Very good point. Yeah.
Like Battlefield's more popular on console, but it started off as a PC title, so it's still got a very popular, strong PC foundation there, where Halo was console from the start and only ever got some crappy ports for like the longest time, so PC never really picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next season. The map looks neat, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think most people are just excited for the next Battlefield game.
Yeah, at this point, what I find funny is how when Battlefield 2042 launched, they announced their whole Battlefield universe thing. You remember that? Where they were like, we're working on a bunch of Battlefield projects. And the fact that they made that announcement right when 2042 was clearly struggling and everyone was very disappointed.
Yeah. It was really bad market timing, and like you can look at it now because the higher ups thought 2042 was going to be a huge success. That's the weirdest thing about it is like the miscommunication between the dev team and the higher ups, where like the higher ups are like, we're ahead of schedule, before the game came out. It's going to be great. Like it's going to have all these amazing features and all this crazy stuff, and then the game launches and it's like it's in a terrible state. And then
even there were devs that were tweeting who were like, trust us guys, we've got this. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, man, it's just hard to know, because I know some people also that were like of the opposite opinion. So maybe there's a division within the team of
maybe
who realized that it was about like the shit was about to hit the fan versus like thought it was all going to be great. But yeah, man, it it was a tough situation, but that marketing thing was clearly queued up before they realized that it was going to be
100%
one of the most disastrous launches. Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, you see that great Battlefield 2042? Well, we got more in store in the future.
Yeah. But they seem to be like doubling, if not tripling down on the franchise now, because I think EA knows. Yeah,
which I
smart.
love, and because I love Battlefield, and if I can get more of that, I'm in. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they're going to give them the time to develop, which it seems like they are, because they haven't made any announcements this year. There was talk, and this may have been because they thought 2042 was going to be successful. But I remember specifically, I think Jack did an interview or talked, or there was something where one of the head guys at EA said that we're going to go back to a 2-year cycle for Battlefield, what they were doing in the past. And it had people worried because many people thought they were going to support 2042 long-term with portal updates, new maps. And then hearing the 2-year cycle again was like, oh, okay, so maybe that's off the table. But because it's almost been 2 years now, we're clearly not getting one this year. So.
Yeah. And they've got 3 different studios, and I've been trying to follow the rumors as closely as possible. And we've got one studio that seems to be dedicated to like mission or narrative content. One studio that's going to be like the classic DICE studio that'll be like, here's your multiplayer experience. And then another one that's like some other Battlefield game, which a lot of people are predicting would be some sort of Royale or Extraction thing or whatever. It
does feel like Extraction's
missed on that twice now.
Yeah, it does feel like Battle Royale, extractor, looter shooters, or whatever you want to call them, they might be the future. It does seem like there's a big push in that direction. And I think they saw that with Hazard Zone. I think they were trying to make something along that line. It just failed miserably.
Yeah.
But Bungie's coming out with a new extractor, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had a dev team dedicated to something similar.
Yeah, the Bungie thing is interesting because I remember playing Marathon back in the day. It was always like, would you like to play Doom or Marathon? You're like, I'll play Doom, thank you very much. But it was an IP that Bungie owned. Here's a weird thing. I was a huge fan of Bungie before Halo was ever announced or like talked about at all.
You're a hipster is what you're saying.
I was a hipster. I went to a Bungie fan fest in San Francisco before maybe Halo was announced at this time, but
you're a mega hipster.
I was playing Myth 2 Soul Blighter in downtown San Francisco.
Okay.
Do you know what that game is?
I've never heard of that. No.
Do you know any Bungie games before Halo?
No.
Yeah.
Well, Marathon, but that's it.
But you know Marathon because they announced the thing.
I knew about it before. Okay, all right. I know some things. LevelCap.
I'm just wondering.
I'm not completely ignorant on all games. Come on now.
They weren't a huge game studio until they basically.
Bungie, yeah. Halo is where they really made their mark, and yeah.
Yeah, dude. Can you imagine? How angry Steve Jobs was when they sold Halo? Or they agreed to make Halo for Xbox exclusively.
Yeah, because they were going to be on Apple, weren't they?
Yeah, but he name dropped Halo and demoed their whole demo reel at like the Mac World Expo thing. Okay. You know, the same place he announces like the iPhone and stuff and the iPod. It was a big deal. Whatever. Yeah, huge deal, gives them massive press, and then they sign on with Microsoft. I'm like, ooh, I would not want to be on the receiving end of Jobs's rage on that one. It must have been intense.
I never followed it, but I didn't realize that they could back out that way, but maybe they just weren't in the contract.
I just don't think they were signed or they were legally in a position where they could.
All verbal, like, yeah, we'll be on your platform. Man, that could have completely changed the trajectory of gaming on Mac, though.
Yeah, I think that was the plan, basically, because Apple kind of turned their nose up at gaming in the past. And so this could have been the thing that put them on the map,
Right. Because only until recently have they sort of been moving a little bit more into gaming, but it still feels like an afterthought.
They're never going to be there. I mean, who wants to?
They may not.
Who wants to game on the Mac?
I've literally never owned a Mac PC or anything really. So
I don't think it's going to happen beyond whatever weird little titles work on it. You're not going to be running a Macintosh to play Battlefield anytime soon. That's for sure.
I mean, they're like $5,000. You would hope that they'd be able to play video games, but nope.
No, I was an Apple guy for a long time, and I just got annoyed with stuff. Like, I had, you remember those blue and white beige G3 towers? They weren't beige. They were, white and blue.
No.
It was, in the era of the flavored iMacs.
Okay.
Remember this?
Yeah.
Okay, so they had, a tower version of that, and I remember buying the same video card that my friend had in his PC, but it was just marked up $100 because it's an Apple version of the thing, and I just remember just being really annoyed by all of that crap. Yeah, because I'm like, it's the exact same piece of hardware. It just has a little chip that makes it so it will work on a Mac and not a PC, and that's it. And I was like, cool. Glad that's $100 extra for that, So. Yeah, that was about the time that I sold the Mac and went PC for life.
Never looked back.
Let's talk about some of your stuff, man. I noticed that you got a real hot take on here for
the hottest takes. Which one do you want? Baldur's Gate or Starfield?
Oh man, the Starfield thing is so lame. Why don't we just?
It's so lame.
Yeah. It is funny that I saw it too.
It's hilarious.
I don't know why it's blowing up social media. Yeah.
I think it's because, and the same thing with Baldur's Gate. So to catch people up, there was a tweet by a particular someone, I don't remember his name, who basically was criticizing the start screen of Starfield saying that this is indicative that either they don't care or the product is going to be rushed. And it's like, it's a start screen.
It's
and this
wild to make that type of comment on a start screen when you're like, this is indicative of like the next 100 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, it's a massive, because from what we've seen, it's a massive single-player RPG with tons of ways to play and experiment.
Yeah,
and
10 years or more in the making, you know. Like,
and the start screen is, and it might be. Maybe the game's terrible. It's going to be buggy, knowing Bethesda. There's going to be tons of bugs, but yeah, it was a bit of a hot take. But I think people run with these stories and they see like a couple people on Twitter talking about it, and then everyone's like, oh, clearly this is a controversy. And that transitions really nicely on over into Baldur's Gate, where there was a lot of people that were upset because there was some developers or some people talking about how Baldur's Gate 3, being the huge success that it is going to raise gamers' expectations. And some devs were saying, pump the brakes. Don't raise your expectations, because we're going to be producing nothing compared to this ever again unless you get lucky, kind of a deal. And while I'm sure there are some devs out there, I think it was blown out of proportion a little bit, or at least I hope it's been blown out of proportion, because I would like to assume that most devs are happy with Larian's success and they can learn from their success and transfer that to their own projects. Yeah.
And it's also like, Baldur's Gate 3 is like, I haven't played it personally. I've watched some videos on it. I respect the heck out of the game, but I know it's not going to be my game, you know?
It's like fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been playing it for like a week, right?
It took me about 2 weeks. I beat it, and it took me 80 hours, which is actually quite short because there was apparently a lot of content that I missed, but it took me 80 hours to beat.
Wow, dude. Yeah. So like good content there. And it's like, from my understanding, it just gives you this insane level of freedom of how to play the game and what happens to your characters. And it's sort of like, do you remember, there's like been some Steam games that have come out over the years that are like super simplistic visually, where it'll be like a top down, very simple graphics, but they use like AI narrative tools to give you this crazy freedom in how your characters progress. I think, is it Ringworld or something like that? It's a game like
Rimworld.
That. Rimworld. Is
yes.
that it? Yeah.
Yeah. I've played that as well.
Yeah. So it sort of seems like the power of that, but just in a much higher fidelity package using the D&D rule set. Is that correct?
Well, Rimworld is a bit different, but it does give you, it gives you that creative freedom to play how you want and tell your own story. I think what's just so incredible about Baldur's Gate 3 is they pretty much have thought about like everything. Mm-hmm. So like you go into a scene and you think to yourself, well, can I do this? And then if you try to do that, they've developed it in a way where, yes, you can do that. So a really good example is that early on in the game, you can... this is a slight spoiler, it's very small, but you get pickpocketed by some children, and then they run away, and then they go into like a little hole, and then you can't go into the hole because they're children and you can't fit, but you can shrink your character down. There's a spell that shrinks your character down. So you go inside, you can confront them, and then I didn't do this, but I was told that you can then turn into a spider and confront them as a spider, and they all freak out and say, I can't believe this is happening again. They all run away and they drop your loot, and then it's crazy how interactive it all is. So
yeah, and I can imagine from just thinking about the different variations and plot lines that they had to account for.
Oh yeah,
it must have taken so long. So I get where other devs are like, we're never going to be able to do this on this level. At the same time, it's a very unique experience, right? Like, it's not like people aren't going to want the classic RPG thing where you just run around and chop guys up with your sword and then talk to people, you know? If Witcher 4 comes out, people aren't going to be like, oh, well, it's not Baldur's Gate, I won't play it, you know? Like, if everyone's going to want to play the next Witcher game, which is more of a traditional RPG.
At the end of the day, gamers just want good games, and it doesn't need to be Baldur's Gate 4. They just want well-polished, well-balanced games at release. And I think what people are frustrated by a comment like that is that it seems like devs are trying to give themselves a little bit of an out for not having that polish a little bit. But I do think the entire story is overblown. I I would hope that most devs are just excited for their success and they can learn from it.
Yeah, and I think I read into it just a little bit, but I saw a lot of comments from other devs that were just like, this is actually great for the RPG industry because we haven't really seen a lot of successes on this level that are like
not even close.
Reaching out into like all other forms of media. Because before it would be like, are you an RPG nerd? Then play this game. And now it's like, if you're playing like Grand Theft Auto, you've probably heard of Baldur's Gate 3, you know, like it's probably come into your news feed. That's how like ubiquitous the game is right now. Everybody's playing it. Everyone's trying it. And so it's like, that's huge for RPGs. So it means that if you are an RPG dev or you're working on a more narrative style game, there's a good chance that there's going to be a bigger audience for it now. You know?
I mean, I think it reached the same concurrent player base. I think it almost got 900,000 concurrent players on Steam, which is, I think, at or more than the Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter. Everyone knows Harry Potter. And it got just as much or more concurrent players, which is incredible. So
it's wild. Yeah, especially considering that the Baldur's Gate franchise is like it's so old. And so Baldur's Gate 2 came out so long ago. I don't want to say, but it feels really old.
I never played them, so
maybe 15, 20 years old, like really old game. So it's not like they had all this like modern notoriety going into Baldur's Gate 3. Most people are probably hearing about Baldur's Gate for the first time when they downloaded this, you know, or at least a lot of them. I don't know what their fan base is, but based on how many people are playing it, I'm like, there's no way those are all old school Baldur's Gate 2 fans, you know. Like,
it could be kind of tough to try and figure out why it blew up. But a lot of it, I believe, came from the goodwill of Larian Studios because they made Divinity, and they kind of were grassroots a little bit because they did Kickstarters with Divinity 1, maybe 2. But Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I think that's true for a lot of people. And then that just kind of snowballed into Baldur's Gate. And then a lot of word of mouth also contributed to it. People could play the early access, could communicate how fantastic just that was. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint why it became this mega success, seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think it also, and again, I'm not someone who's played it, nor have I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in my time. I think I've played like a few games with friends who are like holding my hand through it the whole time.
Yeah.
But it does seem like the ultimate conversion of the D&D game and rule set into a computerized version, right? Where
they've made it really accessible too.
Yeah, where I think most RPGs kind of have some type of D&D mechanics beneath the hood, you know, whenever you play like World of Warcraft, it's doing a dice roll of like your attack rating versus their defense rating type stuff and whatever. But like, this is like to the nth degree. This is what like D&D fans probably have dreamt about a video game doing for the longest time. And then they finally did it.
Yeah, they did it very well.
It's cool, man. I might check it out one day when I feel like I have more gaming.
100 hours at your disposal.
It's one of those things, you know. I constantly am trying to get Operator Drewski to come play Star Citizen because he's very much the sim guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to do it because he's like, I know I'll just immediately put like 100 or 200 hours into the game, and I just don't have time for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's modern gaming to an extent, right? You're like, there's a lot of really good games to pick from, and I just can't. Like, I haven't played the latest Zelda game because I know I'm going to love it.
That's also massive.
Yeah, I know I'm going to love it. I know I'm going to want to do all the puzzles. I'm going to want to get all the like little DQ seeds or whatever they got in that game. And I just don't got the time for it. One day, though, man.
Yep.
Have you seen anything about the little Delta Force game? I shouldn't say little because it looks like it's aiming to be bigger than
So Delta Force was the first-person shooter I played on PC ever.
The first-person shooter.
The first-person shooter I ever played on PC. Because I played like GoldenEye on N64 and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was my very first, and I loved it's probably why I fell in love with first-person shooters. And so I saw the announcement, and I was like, oh boy. And then the trailer was interesting, to say the least.
Interesting.
Yes.
Have you seen, speaking of Operator Drewski, did you see his tweet?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'll have to.
Do I need to look it up?
You don't have to, but I can also put it on screen. He did a little trailer analysis breakdown, and he found some things in there that are sort of like, okay, I'll give them a pass for early access. Like they're reloading, I think, the Deagle, and like a 5.56 shell comes out of it, which is like, okay.
Okay, well, that's yeah.
Yeah. That kind of thing I don't care about as much. However, they do show, and I forgot which weapon this is, but there's a running animation where a player's holding the gun, and it's like a typical, like I'm running and the gun's bobbing up and down as I run.
Yeah.
And he put it side by side with with one of the latest Call of Duty games, and it is the exact same animation, as in like copy and pasted it's like they broke the animation code out of COD and copied it into their game. And it's kind of crazy when you see it. So somebody mentioned in the comments that they might have some sort of studio relationship. I don't know if that's true or not. But it's being developed by Tencent's the producer, right? So COD has stolen plenty of stuff in the past.
There's so many ways to run.
No.
But...
If you watch it, it's because it's like, think about like the natural jiggles or something that an animator.
Oh, so
might put
even
in.
like when he starts, it's all one for one. Okay.
No, it's like copy and paste. So that as soon as I saw that, I was thinking like, how much of a weird Chinese knockoff version of like a Delta Force Call of Duty Battlefield thing is this game going to be?
Well, because it also appeared to be trying to aim for more realism, and then all of a sudden, like they're describing how real it, it's hardcore real, and then a person comes out with a recon bow. It's like, what?
We're posting, this podcast is going live Wednesday. We're recording on Monday. I think they're dropping the trailer tomorrow.
Oh.
So we might be like we're talking about old hat here, man. Possibly. I mean, there's going to be a giant Epic Gamescom trailer that like
blow us away, and we're going to be we're going to look stupid. I mean, it's too late. We always look stupid.
It's too late. Maybe we can talk about that one next.
I wasn't overly impressed with the trailer though.
There was a shot where the RPG hits the chopper and the destruction looks not good.
Everything looked like it was cut right at a point where things were going to break in the game. If that makes sense. It.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like they had like a minute long sequence of action, and they're like, "Can we get 5 seconds of this that looks cool without the game breaking?" And then they got those chunks and then put them into the trailer.
And then you saw little snippets at the end of like a clip where like, "Oh, okay, all right, that looks like something was about to go down, but no." Yeah,
there apparently some of the mobile footage leaked online because it's going to be a mobile game too, which is unusual.
That changes things a little bit.
To launch it on all platforms, including mobile, at the same time. I don't know how many games have done that before. Actually, that's pretty wild. But based on that gameplay, it looks kind of like Battlefield meets Call of Duty.
Is it a single player or multiplayer?
I don't know. No multiplayer.
It is multiplayer?
Yeah. Okay. Multiplayer. It might have a single player component. I don't know, man. We'll find out. It's probably already all over the news. #1 trailer at Gamescom at this point. Anything you're looking forward to at Gamescom? Anything on your radar?
I didn't even know Gamescom was going on right now. I've just been in my own little world these last couple of days. So no, I haven't. I unfortunately haven't been keeping up on that. I do want to quickly mention though, for Delta Force, my character name back then, I called myself Dark Knight.
Ooh.
That was my first character. I didn't name myself Matimi0. I was the Dark Knight.
You know what my handle was back in my Myth 2 Soul Blighter days was Juggernaut.
Juggernaut. Yeah, I can see that. I can see it. Yeah.
Those were gosh, it's so funny to think about like your early day handles where you're like, I'm Juggernaut and I'll be known as the Juggernaut. Yeah. Like everybody's going to know me.
I'm so cool.
Oh man. And then you're like, you could have just gone with Dark Knight. Imagine if that was your handle going into your YouTube career.
Hey guys,
this is the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight here. And it was like, like a knight in shining armor. It wasn't dark. Like it was bad.
Yeah. One of the guys that I started playing Battlefield with, I still chat with him from time to time. We called him Fee Knight. You probably played with him a few times.
Sounds familiar, but
because it was FE and then Knight. and it was supposed to be Fe is, I think, iron on the periodic table.
Oh, Iron Knight.
But nobody got it.
I don't get it.
And he didn't correct anyone. So we just called him Phi Knight. And then like a year or two into knowing him, he was like, it's the Iron Knight. And I was like, not anymore. Dude.
Not anymore, boy.
There's some bad handles out there, man.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Mine's not great.
Actually, that is really funny what you ended up going with. You're like, not the Dark Knight. I've got a much better one here.
Matimi0 with the 0 at the end. I have no idea what the
Somebody
reason was.
took Matimi0. They probably did because it's a character name, right?
It's based off a character. It's not the exact spelling. So no, I
so nobody took.
Legitimately no idea. No, I have no idea. I'd like to sit here and tell you and explain why I put a 0 at the end, but I legitimately cannot remember.
Just to make your SEO life much harder.
Yep.
Yeah. That's search engine optimization for people not in the know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you type in a normal, it works out, but.
Yeah, you've been around long enough where it knows how to find you, but at the same time,
at the beginning,
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it's based on a character from Redwall, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's pronounced Matimi0. He was the
Matimi0.
son of Martin, the rat, or not the rat. The mouse. Apologies. Because Redwall. So you know what? You're not gonna make fun of my Redwall, fandom.
I read one of the Redwall books when I was younger, and I liked it. I thought it was good. I think Netflix is working on a live action, or somebody was, or some not live action, but like CG.
I was gonna say, if it's live action, that's gonna be pretty impressive.
Like Lion King style animation.
Oh, okay.
I think
that would be pretty wild if they could pull it
maybe
off.
It's canceled at this point. Who knows? I think it started after, when like Game of Thrones changed everything for all the streaming platforms, and they're like, we all need fantasy shows. Go. I think it's part of that aftermath where they're like, okay, what fantasy shows can we buy the rights to, and like start them right now. Mm-hmm. And now that's been kind of dying off,
For the most part, there's still a lot of big fantasy stuff, but
yeah.
They've made attempts.
I like The Witcher, but I'm so bummed that Henry Cavill's leaving. I'm just like, I don't even know if I'm going to watch the next season, and I feel like a lot of people are in the same boat.
think you're alone. I haven't even finished season 3. I watched an episode, and then I just couldn't do it.
It's kind of weird how that news of him departing the show, like, just killed the hype.
Took the wind out of its sails. I mean, I feel like the show kind of took the wind out of its sails, too, but I think that's more dependent on if you were a big Witcher fan before the show.
Yeah, I know you've probably read the books, right?
I never read the books, but I was into the games, and
I can't believe you haven't read the books, considering how many fantasy novels you've read.
I know. I'm ashamed. There's a lot, and I'll eventually get to them.
It's like being a sci-fi nerd and
all right,
never
you don't have to
watched
shame me.
Star Wars. Okay.
But they have deviated pretty substantially from the books, and clearly Henry was not happy with it, so he's now making Warhammer show.
Is that actually happening?
Yes.
Is it like a full live action type thing?
I think so, but I love Henry. I think he's an incredible actor, or a great actor, and I think he's very charismatic, but Warhammer is a genre and a series where, like, what is their production value going to be like? The worlds in that universe,
CG 100%.
Yeah, the world in that is bonkers. They've got entire cities. That's the entire planet is just a city, and they've got skulls everywhere, and they use skulls to communicate, and it's like,
yeah,
good luck.
Well, and everyone's gonna have to either like have prosthetics or like Iron Man level armor costumes on all the time.
Yeah, they're like 9 feet tall, superhumans. I'm excited.
Now is the only time that they could do that, but I also, part of me feels like it might have been better to approach it as like a film franchise or something. I don't know if you can do that from a show, but then again, you look at like Game of Thrones, and the production value on that was insane. At the
Right.
same time, Game of Thrones was still people just standing around in like tunics and stuff, for half of the scenes. You didn't.
They had great
Yeah.
production, but you're right. There wasn't like tons of action and anything like that. It was political.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess Warhammer will. I don't know. I haven't actually read any Warhammer material.
Neither have I. I've wanted to get into it, but it's pretty massive, so
Yeah.
I just haven't dived in yet.
It does look cool, though. It does look cool. So, how's your Twitter account going, Matt?
My Twitter account?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. How's your Xing going? Your
Oh,
X?
yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I was so confused there for a second. It's going well. I enjoy perusing Twitter sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use Twitter really anymore. I've kind of fallen off a bit.
Okay. So, have you been following any of the the takeover and all the fun tweeting stuff?
I
going on?
have seen bits here and there. The recent one is Elon wants to remove blocking, which, according to there's a thing set up on Twitter now, X. I'm calling it Twitter. You can't can't move into a city and then change the name of the city. It's still the city's name. You can't just do that.
Well, how many years of building up that brand name do they have? Also, they didn't come up with an alternate name for tweeting. So what do we do?
They
Are we Xing now?
No,
Like,
I think you're posting.
You're posting on
Yeah,
X.
you're posting on X and
That's
reposting.
not an improvement. Yeah.
No, it's
ruined
not.
it.
You spent a decade creating a brand recognition that everyone knows around the world.
Yeah.
Tweet has become well known and established, and then he just wanted to get rid of it. But there's this thing that they added, which I actually think is a good feature, where I believe people can go in and correct and have like a little description.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
And they corrected Elon saying that, and I don't know how true this is because I didn't look into myself, but when he posted, we're getting rid of blocking, they corrected him and said, you can't get rid of blocking because then it wouldn't be allowed on certain apps because it's required on social media to be able to block people so that you don't have to see their posts. And
Interesting.
Yeah.
He responded to one of them saying you can just mute them. And at that point, I was like, I don't even know what the difference is anymore.
I think muting, the person doesn't know they've been muting, while blocking, if they try to respond or read your tweets, they can't.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. But
Okay. That's just one of the many crazy things that has been happening. The thing that kind of I won't say triggered me, but interested me because I'm of the content creator world is they finally, and this is if you're from the YouTube or Twitch world, you know that obviously platform monetization is extremely important to foster a good creative environment of people who can dedicate more time to making good, worthwhile content. And other platforms like Facebook have always struggled with this or put weird requirements behind monetization, or it's never been as good. So kind of YouTube's done a pretty good job overall with it. Mm-hmm. And then Twitter, they recently announced that they're monetizing the platform, and the monetization rates for it have been ridiculous. There's a post here by Tim Pool, and he posted how much he made off of 243 million impressions.
Okay.
So yeah, 243 million impressions.
It's a lot.
Over a 28-day period.
Yeah.
That's Matt. I'm not huge on Twitter. I have over 100,000 followers, but I don't even think I get 1 million impressions. I think I get around 1 million impressions in a month, maybe. I don't try very hard on it. But yeah, so he's doing incredibly well, and he made $4,377 off of what is astronomical visibility.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah.
That's very bad.
I just thought it was funny because they sort of touted it initially when they announced it as a way for content creators to support themselves by making stuff. I'm so even if you are like one of the world's biggest accounts, you're making like a basic living.
I mean, 4,000 is not insignificant. It's not nothing.
No,
but
no,
for the
but I
amount
think
of the amount of views, like that's an incredible amount of views.
I don't know anyone getting that kind of impressions on Twitter. Like personally, I don't know anyone that's even close to that. So like, I don't know. I found it funny and interesting. It's like one of these crazy things now where the world of content creation is so sought after, I feel, by many people. Everyone wants to build a profile around it, but then you're like, here's the reality of like what that turns into in a dollar sign.
Well, what rubbed me the wrong way is that don't you have to subscribe and pay them money for them to even be eligible for revenue?
Yeah, you have to sign up for Twitter Blue, which
Right.
I think is $15 a month or something like that.
So your average person they're not going to get their money back essentially.
Sure.
Unless they get, unless they take off.
Well, they get advanced features, Matt. Like they can upload 1080p video.
Apologies, I was not aware of
They
this.
can
1080p in 2023. That's incredible.
They can edit their tweet for like 30 minutes after it goes live.
I mean, that's
man.
a nice feature. If you missed a spelling error or something.
I'll play devil's advocate for half a second and say that I think it's fairly public knowledge that Twitter is in the red in terms of its actual income right now.
It's been that for a while.
Yeah, the entire ad industry is going in the tubes right now because of the economy. So people aren't paying a lot of ads, and Twitter's like at the forefront of that because they just nuked their public image,
Right.
So they're suffering worse than other people are. So yeah, they're doing what they can. So I don't think they can offer a big percentage of that ad revenue where who knows what percentage that is of the actual ad income. It could be like 5% or less.
I don't think they've disclosed it, not to my knowledge.
They haven't, where platforms like YouTube, I think, is still around 45% or something like that. That goes to you at least. So at least you kind of know what percentage you're making. And in exchange, you're like, YouTube is uploading 4K video and transcoding it and distributing it and streaming it to anywhere in the world. You're like, that's a pretty good feature. Like, it feels like that's probably pretty expensive to like handle that. And then Twitter's like, here's some text and a picture at low res.
Yep. Yeah.
Here's no money.
I feel like most people are pretty happy with the way that you like. I mean, yeah, of course, there's the algorithm and everything on YouTube, but they like the whole distribution. I think most people are pretty happy with the way they've allocated the revenue split. Unless I'm wrong, unless people are upset about it.
I think they are, but I think in general, like the way that it's kind of advertised, especially like maybe 5 years ago, more so was like you got these big time content creators making it look like, oh, I make videos on the internet now, I drive a Lamborghini type thing, And it's like, but I do think that is like kind of the image that a lot of people still seek or think about when they get into content creation. And
well, hasn't ad revenue gotten better on YouTube over the years and not worse? Unless, maybe ups and downs here and there. But I remember when I first got started, it was awful. And it wasn't livable. At least because I wasn't making a lot of views either.
The map. Yeah. It did a lot of fluctuation. I heard in the early days when like Machinima was kind of controlling everything, that content creators were getting like flat rate deals that were like crazy high. Yes. Because they just didn't know how to value the ad rates back then. And also the market saturation was really low. So they probably were getting their monies. Like all the ads would just go to like one guy. So they would get crazy high fill rates, where now the fill rate might be less, right? So it's like the ads are still high CPM, but you're only running one ad every 20 views or something, right? So you get slower fill rates and stuff. So, but I think YouTube in general has done a good job. It's just market saturation, and then and most people have to monetize via an outside source now, right? It's like buy my t-shirts.
Well, that's why you see so many. And today's video is sponsored by whatever.
Yeah. I do it all the time, and I'm fine with telling people that I make way more money on my ad spots than I do on YouTube revenue, because it just getting
most people are fine with it because they realize it's still a job, and then you got to pay your bills, got to pay, take care of your family.
Yeah, it can take a little while to edge into that though if your audience isn't used to it. And they're like, "What's all these ad reads?" And you're like, "Well, I mean, it's either ad reads or I'm not making content."
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of channels that do lots of ad reads, have you been following any of the Linus Tech Tips stuff?
Yeah, I have. The down. I don't think it's going to be the downfall of Linus Tech Tips, but
No.
not looking good.
Too big to like explode.
Well, I also don't think the controversy is not great. It's a bad look, but it's not like he. There's been some people that have come, like there's been some controversies that have come out and you're like, okay, they're probably done. This doesn't feel like that. They definitely need to change their work culture for sure, and things need to improve and they need to evaluate, but I'm hoping, at least from the little that I've seen, that it's not going to be the end of their business, because I think that they do make quality content.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of those weird things where they do the podcast, and I feel like a lot of the podcast, almost because it's such an impromptu format and it's not scripted out and whatever, the hot takes on there, they put themselves out there so much that there's going to be bad hot takes. It's just one of those situations where if you're talking enough unfiltered on the internet, you will occasionally say bad stuff. And I think, what's
going to happen on this podcast? Are we going to?
Definitely not. We're only going to say good stuff here, Matt, and nothing inappropriate. Nothing
no
weird,
hot takes ever.
Nothing that will ever be referenced at any point later where somebody's like, see that time you said this thing.
And that's the thing about always being online, is that no one's perfect. And that's why I'm not trying to say what is happening should be excused. I want to make that very clear. I think that the allegations that have come out are serious and they need to be taken seriously. And hopefully Linus and the company will try to improve and become, better and more responsible. But we build up people, throw on their pedestal, and then when they don't live up to these like crazy expectations, we tear them down and we say that they're garbage. And then it's like, well, they're human. Everyone is going to make mistakes. And it's really exhausting to constantly see this happen over and over and over again. Because you're right. You're always online. You're going to be saying things, and they're going to reference it in the past.
Yeah, it's hard because there's that massive disconnect between the icon, right? The person that you start who becomes famous, who becomes this sort of figure, and they kind of lose their humanity through that in the public view, where it's like you hold them to this different standard almost, and you're like, oh yeah, wait, they are a person at the end of the day. And they do make mistakes, and they do slip up, and they aren't always accurate 100% of the time, because nobody is. Yeah. And yeah, I'd like to give Linus, I'm not hard on him about a lot of stuff. I think he does a good job and makes entertaining content. But isn't it wild that his company's 120 people? Like, did you realize how big Linus?
Apparently, haven't been paying that close attention. No, I had no idea it was that big.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it's crazy to think about, because imagine how hard it is to make a hardware review video with all those data charts and the stat points where they're like, well, here's how it ran on this motherboard and here's how it ran on that motherboard. And you're like, that takes people hours to run those kind of things. And
right.
I mean, and if you make small mess ups in it, the data's all wrong, and like they're pumping out multiple videos a day. Yeah, it's got to be tough. But the point that the other channels made was like pretty strong and valid, right? It's like ultimate, like Linus Tech Tips runs itself as mostly, I would say, an entertainment channel, or an entertainment channel first and a review channel second, almost, in terms of the way that their content is designed.
Okay.
And when you get the data wrong in a review video for hardware that could potentially destroy a product, it's like a huge deal, especially if you're the most well-known review channel.
And Linus is at this point.
Yeah. So it seems good that they're sort of taking that approach and re-looking at things, and
they should be held accountable. Because the stuff that came out, like, absolutely, they did wrong, and they should be held accountable. Yeah. But the internet likes the internet and just blow up over everything. So
It's how much of his channel do you think is a product of YouTube culture, and that like he started off, he wasn't making multiple videos every day,
No.
like the rate of production was much slower and more focused, and like each video had a bigger impact and a bigger meaning behind it, because you're like, oh, it's a Linus video that came out, and like a lot of thought went into it clearly. And then as it ramped up, everything just got bigger and crazier, and now there's like a review for every type of hardware, and there's tons of stuff coming out every day, and Linus isn't even a character on all of the content anymore because he's got a big team and hundreds of people.
It'd be impossible
over
for him to be
people.
on everything.
Yeah, and over 100 people putting together all that content, going through all these different things. It sort of feels like YouTube, the culture around becoming big on YouTube or any sort of social media platform is this kind of breakneck pace that you have to adhere to get big.
Yes.
And then like once you are big and successful, it seems like maintaining course is almost like too scary at that point. Like, well, if we just get comfortable and do what we've done before, are we going to die? Is our brain going to like become irrelevant
because of it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do we need to pump out all this crazy amount of content at this breakneck pace in order to like grow into some giant thing? Or can we be comfortable at like a smaller level? Or yeah, it's like one of those things that's hard to like gauge. And like with any company, especially when I heard that 120 number, I'm like, oh man, the amount of inefficiencies and inaccuracies and everything, like as soon as companies scale up, that's when it all starts to happen, because there's just too much stuff going on and things.
Eventually, you can get too big. Yeah. But I do agree that I think, it may not be YouTube culture unless you're just referring to they see what is successful on YouTube, the algorithm.
Yeah.
They get rewarded for that. And then they keep pushing
That's
that kind of content.
Mean.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I do think that has been pushing them in that direction for absolutely. I think most channels eventually, if they want to do this long term, have to play the game. There's a game of YouTube, and if you want to make it financially viable, you kind of have to play the game a bit. Some people have been able to deviate from it, and they find outside sources of revenue, like you said, with sponsors, sponsored deals, and they can make like one video a month, but it's like an incredible video, and then they integrate that into the sponsored thing into the video, and it blows up, and they do really well, and they can do that long term. But I agree. I do think that YouTube has changed any company, including Linus Tech Tips.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll recover from it, but I think they'll be better for it too. And I think it's good also, like, I thought Gamers Nexus did a really professional job of like pointing things out in terms of what you could call like trash talking or drama on the internet. I thought that was like one of the more professional things I've seen in terms of like
they called them out, and they were clear that they weren't just trying to tear them down, but they wanted to make sure that they were being held accountable, because the evidence and what they showed was
and it affected Gamers Nexus, who is kind of getting called out from time to time or caught in the crossfires, or affecting their job too, where they're like, if they spend a lot of time getting stats accurate, and then the company that does it quickly and gets more views and more stuff
differs from their stats.
It's got to be infuriating for doing it right and doing worse off because of it,
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, man. Well, I think we kind of are nearing the end here of the podcast. This would be episode 1 of Level With Me. I would like to keep doing it for quite a while. I think we've decided that we're gonna give this a real shot.
Yep.
Speaking of all the fun monetization stuff, we have created a Patreon account for our podcast. And there's a link for that in the video description, because I wrote it. Oh, there we go. Patreon.com/levelwithmepodcast. If you guys want to help support our content, you can go sign up there and become a Patreon member. And we've been brainstorming what we think would be valuable transactionally, or make better content for you guys for supporting us. We want to have a Q&A session after each episode where Patreon members can both watch the episode live while we're recording it on Mondays, and then ask us questions after the episode. And then if you can't watch it live, we'll post the Q&A session specifically for Patreon members in a Discord channel where you guys can access it there. And we're thinking of different ways to monetize beyond that too. So if you guys have any cool ideas for that or features you'd like to see added, we're open. This is the proto era.
This is an open relationship.
Yeah. We've played around with some ideas too, where Matimi0 is going to do some NPC stuff for you guys live, where you could buy him food, you know.
Bang.
Yum. Type content.
Can you imagine? Oh, that'd be terrible.
I am imagining it, Matt, and it sounds amazing.
It sounds awful. I think that. Well, I don't know if that's trends. No, keep going. You're doing great.
No, I think we should keep that open. You know, if it monetizes well, Matt, I think you should just be a team player and go with it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we wanna. I like recording this podcast. We've been talking about doing it for a while. I've thought about making a podcast for a long time. So I'm really excited about doing this one with you. And I hope everybody watching has enjoyed it. And we're going to figure out kind of where
it's going to be a learning experience. There's going to be some growing pains, but I think, it should be a good time.
Yeah. Oh, and we want to have guests on too.
Yes.
Down the road. So we would like to have guests on, grill them about their journeys through whatever, whether it's content creation or game development, or maybe even outside of those worlds, who knows. And yeah, it'll be live Wednesdays on this YouTube channel, and also hopefully wherever else you like to consume your podcast, because we're going to try distributing it through other platforms, which I haven't tested yet, but I think,
but that's its own little mess. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed. Matt, any parting words?
No, love you, long time, and thanks for watching.
All right, guys. Later.